kind of funny. There's a script for the day's service, and it says host, and that's me today. And it says introduce a speaker and personal connection to the speaker. And I don't know how I could even begin to explain my personal connection to Maureen. She is my wife, and I feel very lucky to be able to share our journey through, through life together. It's the greatest blessing in my incredibly blessed life. Maureen is, I don't know how to explain all that she does or all that she is, but she's a creative dynamo, a spiritual dynamo. I feel like I married, female Jesus, which is, I don't know, it's a beautiful thing. Anyway, you know her as well as I do. I give it over to Maureen. Away.
Thanks, Will. Thanks. That's pretty funny. Don't call me a female Jesus. Next thing I'll know, I'll be crucified. We saw a show last night. Will and I went on a date night, and we saw Honk for Jesus. And in the movie, it comes from the perspective of the minister's wife, and she calls herself the First Lady. So since that movie, I've been calling Will the First Lady. I know he enjoys that. So anyway, so blessed to be here. Thank you, Raven. Thank you, Deborah Ann. Thank you, Barbara. Thank you, Brenda. Thank you, Joni. Thank you, all the people who say yes to being a part of this service and a part of this community. Today we're going to be talking about I am the threshold of heaven or hell. And we're going back into this prayer series, and we're on the second step of affirmative prayer. And the second step is I am. So in order to teach that section of what I am, sometimes we want to look at what we're not. And like I said, this I am will take us to heaven or hell. So you might want to think about what is the hell that you are experiencing right now. And there's no shame in it. You might not be experiencing hell, but if there is a little tinge, a little, dust in the corners of your consciousness that seems to resemble some form of hell, you might be stuck or stagnant in some way. I just want you to think about that and bring it to your mind, and then begin to think about the constructive opposite of that. So holding that idea of the constructive opposite of your hell, and in a little bit I'm going to ask you to write that in the chat. But an example would be if you're experiencing financial woes, the constructive opposite would be abundance. If you're experiencing a dis-ease, the constructive opposite would be vitality. If you're not sure of the constructive opposite, just be still with your own little hell and ask the Holy Spirit, what would be the constructive opposite? Because we're going to walk through the second step of affirmative prayer. And we're going to move through the threshold. Lately, I have been absolutely enamored and romancing this idea of thresholds, and that's why I put it in the title. If you've been in any of my classes recently, you probably have heard my mad rambles, my joy and beguilement of this concept of threshold. I have found this idea showing up in my daily rounds in 1,000 different ways. And I'm just kind of delighted by this idea of thresholds for us to be able to use this idea as a spiritual practice. And I found it equally intriguing that while reading this book called The Soul's Slow Ripening, to prepare for the Irish pilgrimage, there was this section on threshold. It turns out that St. Bridget of Kildare, Kildare meaning Church of the Oaks, so like Church of the Oak Trees, which how beautiful is that? So St. Bridget of Kildare was born in a threshold. And her mom stood in the doorway, 1 foot in the old, 1 foot in the new, 1 foot in the day, 1 foot in the night, and birthed forth this child through this doorway of this barn at the dawn of February 1st, which is where she was born. Half indoors, half outdoors, in the middle of winter and spring, transitioning from day to night, born in a middle space, the space that was unclaimed and unclear, like the space between our inhale and exhale, that space that goes unnamed and yet is such a vital spot of absolute transformation. So she's born, first of all, it says, as a slave to a slave mother, born to a Christian slave. I don't know. That's kind of interesting wording, but that's what it said in Google. And also to a father who was a pagan and a wealthy chieftain. So St. Bridget was known for her generous nature And this generous nature drove her father crazy. She would just continue to give all of his prized possessions away. And so finally one day he brought her to the king, intending to sell her. And this passed as normal back in the day, just so you know. And while her father was speaking to the king, Bridget gave her father's jeweled sword to a leper that was standing by. And this just enraged her father. And so, but it actually inspired the king to recognize this child's holiness. And the king declared that her father should, leave her alone. And he said that her marriage before God was greater than either of ours. And the king freed Bridget to follow her faith. Now, if that's not a great story, I don't know what is, right? So her birth speaks of what happens when things get uncomfortable, when things get tight, when the old is no longer working and something new and yet unknown is declaring its arrival, and we begin to have labor pains. This story of St. Bridget is all of our stories, from spiritual slavery to sacred liberation. And when we are in the completion of a classroom or the completion of an awareness and we're ready to move on to the next realm of consciousness, we'll be freed by the laws that this king represents in the story. The king represents this law of love that recognizes holiness. And her father represents control and fear and anger. Both of these voices and archetypes live within us. So be sure when you approach every threshold that you will be met by this benevolent king that says to you and whispers on your internal, compass, says to you, move forward. You got this. And there will also be that angry father who we will want to be loyal to, who will say to us, don't you dare. Our people don't go there. You have no business moving through that threshold. So again, these are both our internal voices. But if we're painstaken about our conscious evolution, we will move through those thresholds and we will see doors where there once were walls. And there will be that liminal space in which we will either fold or fly, depending on how we use the I am. We will either fall back in fear by saying, I'm not ready, I'm not willing, I'm not worthy, or we will lean forward in prayer, and using that affirmative statement, we will say, if I'm brought to it, I'm brought through it. I am preordained for what lives before me. So fear at that moment will have us reaching for the known. And maybe it will reach for things that help to quiet that voice that says, I'm ready to move forward. That fear will have us reaching for painkillers or distractions or gossip or toxic relationships, really anything that will keep us circling the comfort zone of the known. And so we'll have the tendency to possibly avoid thresholds. And it's kind of funny to me because I remember when Will and I lived in California during the earthquake season, we would, if an earthquake happened, we would grab the kids and run to the threshold because that's what they told us to do, because that was supposedly the most safe space in the house, which for earthquakes, that's true. Otherwise, thresholds are not safe for many people. They feel very risky because they ask us to deliver a new version of ourselves. They ask a lot. They ask us to let go of what we know and move into the mystery. And, I'm seeing Reverend Barbara smile. This woman is an expert of moving through thresholds. And the time that I've known her, she went from apartment to single to three or four houses. I don't even know how many. She's living in Florida now with Phil. I mean, if you're interested in finding a loved one, she has the freaking recipe. This woman knows how to not only move herself, but move others through thresholds. So I just got to give her a shout out. So these thresholds, they ask us to let go of what we know and move into the mystery. Now, in the show Transparent Love, which I'm actually performing on October 11th, and this is a shameless plug, I'm going to put the link in the chat. If you're in the Chicago area, please come and join me. The show is actually centered around a threshold, and the threshold is this door of my child's bedroom, and the sign on the door says, a pansexual transgender lives here. And I'm on the other side of the door. And I'm the mom, so I'm asked to move through the door. And on one side of the door is everything that I thought I knew about me and my child. And then through the door is death. That's what lives on the other side. Death to everything I thought I knew. Do you know how scary it is for the ego to just come absolutely vacant to conversations? And yet that's exactly what we talked about last week when we say God is and cease to speak. We just know that God's on both sides of the door. But that doesn't always become aware for us when we're standing on, on the cusp of these invitations. It's usually a very scary cliff to lean from, and we pray that God has some sort of safety net or that we grow wings, but either of these ideas are very unlikely. So stepping forward is just something we have to do if we are people of faith. But to be alive requires us to live in that liminal space. To allow us to move in the unknown requires us to step through many, many thresholds. And as we step into the unknown, we evacuate ourselves from these comfort zones where something beautiful can actually reveal itself. See, when we say that we are going to do what love would have us do, that does not mean that it is going to be easy. It simply means that it is necessary for our spiritual evolution. It doesn't mean that it's not going to be scary. It's just saying that we're going to do what's necessary to move us forward in some spiritual evolution. We ask 1,000 times a day to walk through thresholds. We're invited 1,000 times a day to walk through thresholds. These are places where things begin to feel like they're falling apart and they're getting thin and the road is getting narrow. And we stand at each invitation and consciously decide with every single threshold, what is it that we're going to birth forward? Just like St. Bridget, what also is going to be aborted in my stepping into this new idea of myself? So before us, through this threshold, lives this way of being that we have thus far not embodied. So we're literally calling ourselves to move into a state of being that we haven't known yet, but form follows consciousness. You've heard me say that 1,000 times. I'll say it 1,000 more because it is a irrevocable law. So we get called forward, and we know, as we get called forward, we kind of shuffle our feet in reluctance at the door. What are they going to think about this? What am I going to think about this? Who will I be on the other side of this door? It's both an invitation and an annihilation. But we were born, like St. Bridget, to pass through thresholds. We are each on an eternal journey of coming home again and again and again and again and again and again to love, in the myriad forms that it wants to be experienced while we're on this big blue marble. So the birth of St. Bridget is a symbol of our ability to expand into new consciousnesses. And the affirmative prayer assists us in that forward movement because it aligns us with God and declares that we are in fact authorized through our power of our word and the emotions to assist in the bringing heaven to earth. And that sounds like a big and noble thing to get about. And so, we want to be about it. This is where we tap into that internal king that sets the decree for our own freedom. God is the realm of heaven, and this is where we personify that heaven on earth. God is connected to me. I am connected with my brothers, which is a reinterpretation of the crucifixion given to me in a meditation. It's a reforming of an old idea that says, I too am born for this. And like St. Bridget, I will reach my liberation. Not only is she birthed in the threshold, but look at her name, St. Bridget, referring to a bridge. When we do the abundance course, we cross 8 bridges. This is also another way that we can compress time and move our spiritual evolution forward. Making the sign of a cross is like a bridge. It's like I bridge myself with the divine. I bridge myself with my brother. This is the I am statement that lives at the center of this. It's saying, I know who I am. I know whose I am, and I know what I'm here for. That's why St. Bridget could give all that shit away that was her dad's, because she was like, it's not ours anyhow. Let's share it. So I'm in the liminal space where the transformation can happen. That's where we mostly live. I am is the 2 words that will determine your life, depending how you use it. I am is the second step of the affirmative prayer, and what follows the I am statement follows you. It's done unto you as you believe. So when you say, I'm tired, I'm broke, I'm battered, I'm bruised, be sure that that is the thing that's going to shadow you. You could also say, I'm able, I'm aligned, I'm audacious. which seems like almost more uncomfortable to say what you truly are than the illusions that you've been bragging about. Who wants to brag about they're broke and they're bruised and they're busted? Like, put all that down. Nobody wants to hear it. We want to know the optimal idea of yourself. So get familiar with being able to speak to your highest optimal state. We can grow a tolerance for your audaciousness. These two words, I am, are like the original genie in the bottle. And if we rub them the wrong way, we're going to end up where we don't want to be. So you want to be careful on how you use these words. God sent Moses to the Pharaoh to, retrieve the Israelites from Egypt. And when when Moses got this lesson from God, or this invitation from God, who was at the time in the story disguised as a burning bush, Moses says to God, who shall I say sent me? Like, what's your name? And the burning bush responds, I am that I am. That's God's name. I am that I am. So Moses does what God would have him do. And then later on in Exodus, God gives Moses the 10 commandments. One of which is, do not use the name of God in vain. What's God's name? I am that I am. So how are we using this name in vain? And when we use something in vain, to use it in vain means to say, like, this doesn't mean anything. This is useless. This is not capable of achieving anything. Don't use these words in vain. Do not assume that they are useless or incapable of achieving outcome. They are a sword that will cut you from your imprisonment or leave you sliced and diced. Last week, when we affirmed God is and how we wanted to come to God, removing all the alternative altars and all the special relationships and all the judgments, and just burn from us all that's not God, so that we could arrive at this state and allow ourselves to be refilled with what is. The truth of knowing who you truly are, full of God, channels for God, one with God. Essentially what we're saying is, I am that I am. All that I am is what God is. I am filled with God. All that God is, I am. I too am that. It's kind of an audacious claim, especially if we've been going around the block saying all kinds of other stuff. But look at Jesus said this, and greater things shall you do. And this is what Jesus said. He said, I am the way, I am the truth, I am the life, I'm the Alpha and the Omega. I'm the beginning and the end, I'm the bread of life. He said, I'm the light of the world. Imagine if you walked around saying, I'm the light of the world. I'm the resurrection of life. I am that I am. It's not what you see in me, it's what I actually am. And I am is the words that will work in your favor or will be your misfortune. It's a very powerful tool. What Jesus does and shows us is that he took ownership of his power, connected himself with his source, and all those statements that he claimed were just that he was saying, I'm an extension of my Father. In certain spaces, he even says, like, it's not even me. I'm not even here. It's God within me that does the work. This is the unification step. This is the step that invites and ignites a holy communion for ourselves with our good and our God. So when we remember and we reach for that truth that God is good, beautiful, and holy, that we are good, beautiful, and holy, we get lifted, we get lighted, we get liberated. This is the union, the holy communion that invites us into clarity, that brings us beneath and beyond all the mad rambles of ego, and uncovers that wellspring of power that's actually ours and for the asking. That's simply, we're heir to that. This is the conscious power. It's greater than all the other powers. It's greater than technology. It's greater than ecology. It's greater than science. It's greater than government. It's greater than economics. In fact, these other laws are susceptible to the influence of prayer, of conscious prayer. And so we get to use this and use it wisely. That's the law that we enact when we fully understand the power of our word. So how does that work in regards to the recipe of prayer? Last week we said the first step is God is. We talked about all the God qualities. And then the second step is simply I am. We have an alignment And we create that alignment through our words. So if you have an ailment that I asked you about in the beginning, if you have a slice of hell that feels uncomfortable, if you have an agitation, what we do is we pour in the constructive opposite. We know that God is not disease, that God is not lack, that God is not scarcity. We speak the constructive opposite about God, and because nothing can leave its source, we know that this is true for us, and we affirm it. We create a faith statement, which is a positive, present tense, and personal. These are the aspects of that I am statement. So if you want to put your constructive opposite in the chat right now and claim it by saying I am, this is the first step to you taking ownership of your own power. If you don't want to do that, if you want to stay at the threshold and continue to dust your shoes off, have at it. You know what I mean? There's not going to be too many places that are going to offer you an opportunity to really speak who you are. So I am, and then the constructive opposite. This affirmative faith statement is, as I said, positive, so it's constructive opposite. Present tense, it's not I will be, or I wish to be, or one day but I am. It's present tense, and it's personal. There's no wishing, there's no hoping, there's no watering it down. It's a simple and clear declaration. Now, to put a little fire beneath those words, you're going to want to really marinate in your invitations, to put some fire in it. These desires, these agitations are actually postcards from God that is saying you're going to be freed from this. This is not what your future is about, and let yourself feel that agitation till feel it in your bones, because that's going to give you the spit and vigor to act vigor, to give you the gumption to really lean into these words, because we don't want to spit half-assed prayers. That's not what we're about. We want them to launch from our lips like fireworks. Don't expect to see a shift in your experience until you fully engage in the truth of your statements. And that's why the most powerful prayers you'll sometimes say are the ones that you'll say when you're after some great loss. When you finally hit your knees and you come complete surrender. Because nobody prays like a man on fire. And nobody prays like an alcoholic who's hit bottom. And nobody prays like a mother who's waiting for the return of her son from war. A mother who knows and will not be denied her good. Nobody prays like that. So when you affirm this unification statement, you're literally waking yourself up. You're denying the illusion and you're declaring the might of your Father. And you move past the fear and you fumble for the door to your freedom and you swing it open and you run your fucking ass to the horizon until you get to the promises of heaven and the joy that comes without barter. It's personal, it's present tense, it's positive. You say, I am freedom, I am power, I am beauty, I am intelligence, I am abundance, I am divinity made manifest, I am harmony, I am unlimited, I am gifted and guided and brilliant and beautiful and bountiful, and I am one with God. And I am not claiming anything that is not true. I am absolutely in alignment with my truth. I am taking full 100% responsibility for my life. And you fire up your words until they burn you away to your own liberation. So that's my word. What's yours?
Thank you, Maureen. That was absolutely fabulous. We have been to church this morning, and I got it, and I trust all of you got it too.
Thanks.
And I have a second assignment today, other than the announcements, and that is to lead this chance to give. Mm-hmm. And I'm a retired minister. I've delivered 20 years of Sunday talks. And it's so much fun to talk about giving and receiving, because really it's the same thing, and we need to do both. Just as we need to inhale, we also need to exhale, don't we? We can't just be an inhaler. I just inhale, I don't exhale. No, that doesn't work, does it? So we need to give. And what's really a great way that God created the world is that we humans are just meant to give and receive, and give and receive, and give and receive. And usually in religion, we talk a little bit more about giving than we do about receiving. But I personally like to teach people and myself to be good receivers. We need to be good inhalers and good exhalers. And we need to be a part of this flow of life. And we know what happens when we give something, we get more back. In other words, if we're good at giving our time, suddenly we have time to spend with other things. If we give of our talents, our unique talents, then we get more talent. If we give of our treasure, our money, we get more money. And so this is an opportunity for you to give to Speakeasy, for our great speakers, our great musicians, and all the administration that nobody ever knows about, but's there. I'm on the board, so I can tell you there is administration. So this is a great time for you to know that you're at a threshold. And it would be great if you did it right now, but you can all go to speakeasyspiritualcommunity.com anytime, and on the homepage there's a place for you to give. So we invite you to prayerfully think what is yours to give. And human beings have a tendency to think, well, if I can't give a huge amount, I shouldn't give it all. No, if each of us gives so much, it all works. And this is a great time to especially go inside and think about your gift for Speakeasy. Speakeasy is 9 years old, and this is the first time that we are really depleting our reserves. And so we know that the board is looking at the budget, we're doing what's ours to do, but we also want to know that it's our job to let you know to do a special prayer. What is mine to give to Speakeasy? And I think Maureen talked a little bit about a threshold, didn't she? So this is a threshold for you. And so we invite you to give, and we are so appreciative, and we know that you are part of the great flow of life. And isn't it wonderful to be in that flow? So the love offering blessing that I always used in my church is this: divine love through me blesses and multiplies all that I have, all that I give, and all that I receive. And I think today I just want to take out all that I have. I'm just going to make it a little shorter. Divine love through me blesses and multiplies all that I give and all that I receive. Let's focus on that today. All that I give and all that I receive. So join me in this great flow of life, and thank yourself and acknowledge all the gifts you've given to Speakeasy, and invite yourself to give some more.
Thank you.
Thank you, Barbara. That was very, very well said. And I know how true that message is. So I hope the rest of us all have heard that and respond like you say. Go to your personal divine and see what message you receive back. Okay, so now it's time for the truly unique experience of Speakeasy, which is our community conversation. It's where we invite you, all of us, to speak easily, to find your voice and your truth and share your thoughts, inspirations, awareness, and your questions in community.
Irene's up.
Okay.
Hi, Irene.
Hey, everybody. Happy Sunday. Maureen, always so inspiring, so poetic. So last week, you actually did say the 2 steps, God is and I am. Mm-hmm. And this week, middle of the week, I woke up in the middle of the night and I was worried about something. And all of a sudden I remembered God is, I am. And I started speaking that out loud. And I just went through a whole list of things. God is love, therefore I am love.
Yeah. God
is beauty, therefore I am beauty. God is worthy, therefore I am worthy. And I did that for I don't know how long, 15 minutes maybe. Mm-hmm. I fell asleep. The next morning, my heart was full. It was amazing. Thank you.
Thank you, Irene. Yeah, it's like I said, those prayers that are going to be most fired up are the ones that come in the middle of the night. You know what I mean? When ego's like, are you sure you believe that love is all there is? You don't want to play some poker with me? So yeah, good for you. What you do for yourself, you do for everyone. Hi, Bella.
Hey there. This is kind of the perfect segue from what Irene just said, is when you were talking about the burning bush saying God's name is I am that I am, and then the 10 commandments saying thou shalt not take the name of the Lord in vain. Then anytime we're saying I am, if it's saying any sort of judgment or criticism or condemnation, it's not honoring God's name. And so That's for ourselves as much as anybody else. And I just thought, like, to really not take the name of the Lord in vain, to really honor that I am, like, that's a real practice. There's so many ways in which, people would have, I'm messed up, or I'm in this situation, or I'm whatever. And to just say, what would be in this moment, really honoring that commandment. Okay, I may be feeling something, but it's not who I am. I may be experiencing something, but it's not who I am. Like, that subtle distinction is really important. And I just thought I would share that. That felt very vibrant and alive for me as you were giving your wonderful talk this morning.
Yeah, and that's really great. We don't have to deny what's passing through the living room. We can entertain it as a passing experience, but it does not, edit the holiness in the same way that clouds don't edit the sun. They're just passing by.
Exactly.
You don't want to ignore that it's a little bit stormy in here right now, but this too shall pass.
Yeah, and the power of the word, though, like how people use the word to just become aware of that subtle distinction. And instead of claiming that's who you are, or that's who I am, say, that's the cloud that's passing now. That's the experiencing I'm having now.
Yeah.
You actually put that in words. So
Yeah.
anyway,
Thanks, Bella. Bella is one of the teachers that are facilitating the class. And when you sign up, you'll get more of her expertise.
Hey, I'll use my classroom of tech as an example, because sometimes I think, oh, when I get this, that, and the other all taken care of, then I'll pray, or I'll meditate, or I'll do whatever. So, but the classrooms are coming more quick and fervent. So in the beginning of this call, Facebook locked me out and said, nobody can see your stuff, and I was like, okay. And I differently than fixing it, I just, watched my heart rate go up to 110. And then I said, I got to get still. And then my eyes could see the instructions a little different. It asked me to do some steps. And I had to let go and do it in peace and not get upset. Because normally I get upset, and run around with my hair on fire. And I didn't understand why or what. And then when it said, okay, we recognize you, blah, 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 go ahead. I just got the message isn't about the technology. It's about go to God, go to stillness. You tell us this billions of times, but I'm getting opportunity to practice in the laboratory of my life. My heart's going up and down, but I get what you're trying to tell us more and more. So thank you.
Yeah, well, it's a game changer. It's definitely a game changer. So it's just an invitation too, I mean, I see your life transforming because you're willing to do that, Joni. And I see other people's lives transforming because they're willing to do that. So if you know that it works, continue to work it. And you're going to work it when your feet are on fire. Yeah, Barbara.
Yeah, I have heard people talk about, that maybe affirmations are turning 180 degrees over what's happening, and we're fearful of turning it around, that it's mechanical and it's not spiritual and we should just be mystics. And what I found is that mysticism is wonderful, and a lot of times I am really, not a lot of times, I guess that's different. Some of the time I am very centered and with spirit, and that's sort of the mysticism of just being connected with God is all I need. But a lot of times I'm in my humanity and what's happening, and I'm in my fear, and I just need to deal with what's in front of me. And it's so wonderful to have the tool of turning it around and knowing, even though I can't see all the proof of it at this moment, I don't know exactly how it's going to turn out, to just say to think, what is the opposite of it? And to hang on to that calms me down. And actually it calms me down enough that I can have a chance of getting into that mystical place of feeling connected to God. So
Yeah.
some people poo-poo the sort of mechanics of the affirmations and that, but I think they're essential here
Well,
on humanity.
they're essential if you're out of alignment with your mysticism. And mysticism, for new ears might sound like you're a mystic, you guys are mystics. Yeah, if you want to be an optimal mystic, you just begin to go with the flow, knowing everything is for you. That's not a far reach. You don't have to go buy Birkenstocks and go to the desert. Like, you can begin to stay consistent with that mindset. Now, these prayers are from when you fall off track with that. You're not going to pray to God if you're already in Holy Communion. You know what I mean? Reverend Beckwith says, like, if you use the law until you no longer need the law, and then you just living in love. So yeah, so that's the step. Those are the breadcrumbs back to your sanity, basically. Thanks, Barbara. Oh, there's Brenda. Hi, Brenda.
Hi. Yeah, thank you for this talk. I think one of the things that comes to my mind is reframing and bringing the awareness about what you're proclaiming about yourself. So even like if you are not feeling well, instead of saying I'm sick, change it to I'm healing, or and what you have, like I have anxiety. Maybe anxiety has you for now, or you're working on this. Like I froze up earlier and I said, I'm not a good speaker. And what I want to say is I am working on becoming a better speaker. So the awareness is there. And again, reframing it. And then you hear it like a sore thumb, or every time you buy a white truck, and then every time you see a white truck, like there's white trucks everywhere. But so then when I'm in conversation with other people and I just immediately hear it when they're talking about themselves and say, I'm this or I'm that. So
Yeah. That's so great, Brenda. That's so great. We don't want to define ourselves by our least lovable moment. You know what I mean? Like, we're awkwardly moving towards our brilliance, and it's like, that's just me. The other day I was saying to my husband, the thing I hate more than anything, and you guys are going to really want to throw me under the bus for this, is like when I go to a play and I see a shitty performance and I get angry and I just want to like punch somebody in the head. It's bad. I know. I'm a Jersey girl. I should be more enlightened than that. And then I got to look at that with the Holy Spirit, and it was like, Maureen, like, what if this was your opportunity? Remember when you were a terrible performer? I was terrible. I was like shaking, like I was like, oh, I forgot the words. I was very robotic. It was a shit show. And it was like, remember when you were there? Now you get to sit in the audience for some new fledgling creative, and you get to hold space for them. Like, is that really the thing that's going to make you angry? And I was like, damn, those reframings bring you from, hell to heaven. So I love that you reframed it for yourself. You are a brilliant and beautiful speaker, and you're becoming more brilliant and beautiful by the day. Hi, Kate. Kate's one of the other teachers. Hey, Will, were you in a class with Kate?
Yes.
Yeah, that's right.
Yes, we were in a class together. We were in the Roots class together. It was wonderful. And I think it rained every Tuesday from what I remember. Class on Tuesday, and Will and I would be walking out to get our cars. It's like, it's raining again. One of the things that I wanted to, or what struck my my thought, was when Barbara was speaking, and the not necessarily the being the mystic and being in the space of spiritual bypass in some sense, that just going to the affirmation of what I am. And I think that you spoke to this very clearly a couple of weeks ago, Maureen, when you said, when I'm in this hell space, maybe I need to reach out for prayer, that I can't shift the mindset, that I need someone else to hold the space for me.
Yeah.
And that's really powerful. And because there may be times when we're in such a place and we are really feeling it, and it's important for us to really feel our feelings and to be in our humanness and be aware of things are. And we can't always tap into the godness that we know. And so if there is someone that we can tap into who can hold space for us, that can, who is our prayer partner, who will speak a prayer, and that can shift us out of that space is really important, because there's times that we can't do it for ourselves. And to know that we have community, and that's why we are in community, because we hold each other up.
Yeah, that's so beautiful, Kate. And Kate is one of the other facilitators for the prayer class. So you are in good hands when you sign up for that. And, you know, what I know about that threshold of asking for help is that if you find yourself always asking for help, that would be the time to engage with the curiosity around your capability. If you find that you're somebody who never asks for help, then that would be the time to like lean into your unity. And either one of those are very scary depending on what side of the scale you fall on. You know, like I think I went from always asking for help to like leaning into my capability, and then you can go too far and like you become a lone wolf. And then asking for help is like, oh, forget about it. I'd rather burn to the ground before letting anyone know I need a glass of water. So it's that balance, you know? Yeah. Thanks, Kate. Well, before we have our singer come back up, Will, did you want to share anything about your experience with affirmative prayer?
Yes, I did. Seemed a little bit like a leading question there.
I'm just asking. You don't have, if you don't have nothing to share, it's okay. I just know you're a great prayer.
Well, I was thinking about, as I was listening to you this morning, I think what feels to me like a profound difference between what I'll call, like, I don't know, traditional prayer, the kind of prayer that I was familiar with before learning the 5-step affirmative prayer, which tends to be like begging for handouts from God and hoping that God, if I beg just the right way, will feel like, you know, giving me whatever, curing my disease, or, you know, giving me more money, or solving whatever the problem is. And what I heard you say, first of all, I've never heard in church, I'm gonna fucking run towards my destiny or something. Like, I was like, there it is. I was waiting for the spiritual F-bomb.
You know what? I've held them back for so many Sundays, and I can't take the girl out of Jersey. It just flew out of my mouth. I can't put it back in. I'm sorry to all you tender-eared people. I'm getting bitter. Like Brenda, I'm getting bitter.
But there's something about the I am statement that it's claiming your power, but it's also claiming a certain, it's acknowledging a responsibility. Yes. Like, I'm claiming my good, I'm declaring my good, instead of just putting myself out there as a victim, and oh, woe is me, I've got whatever my problem is. The constructive opposite is it's taking ownership, like you said, of your life, of your destiny, of the experience that you have. And it's both liberating, I think, and scary. But I said those backwards. It may be scary, but also liberating. Let's go with that. Because I think once people get comfortable with that, the power of self-determination that can come with this, it is very liberating, very exciting. And it's, but it kind of, I think, turns traditional prayer on its head a little bit.
Yeah, I love that. Yep. Thanks for sharing. Kate, and then Deborah, and then we'll have our musician back.
Buenos dias. Good morning, everyone. Yeah, I'm here for the fire and the power that you're speaking with today, Maureen. It is like a felt sense. So thank you for that. And I appreciate what your husband just shared. I too have often felt like, yeah, you know, in traditional prayer, we know who to dial up when shit's hitting the fan, right? Yeah. But really hearing from today's message, how do we reconnect with our truth, like the truth of our being? And just that being such a key differentiator for me, to be able to, in the moment, when things are going really great, when we want to know that highest vision for ourselves, but that it isn't something that we're, hello, I'm in the hurts, how can you help me now? And then maybe I'll come back to you later. A living prayer is really what I'm taking away from what you're sharing today.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yes, a living personalized prayer. It's hot, man. I'm excited about you getting the recipe under your skin. Kate signed up for the prayer class, so watch out. Look out. Hey, Deborah Ann Pinsoff, who is one of the greatest prayers I've ever come across. This woman is poetry in motion. So that's the truth and the whole truth. And we share a birthday. So maybe it's something about the birthday.
And actually, I'll just say it just is, because I was lucky enough to take this course more than 9 years ago with Joan, and anyone can do it. So if you're whispering, oh, it's not for me, or oh, I can't, it really is steps. Just like our kids learn to walk, kindergarten, it is one step at a time, one word at a time. And we all know it because it's in our hearts. So I just wanted, that was my plug. Anyone can do it, and it's so fun for ourselves and for each other.
Yeah. Yes, it is. Thank you, thank you, thank you. So we have our musician who's coming back up. And while he's up, I'm going to put the link to the show in Chicago if you're in the Chicago area and you want to support Centers on Halsted, who does amazing work for the LGBT community, helps kids get off the street, gives them not just meals but vocation. Please come out to the show, and that'll be on National Coming Out Day. So much. Thank you, Will, for hosting today. Thank you, everybody, for coming out. Be sure to sign up for the class and join us for the rest of the series on prayer. We have some great speakers coming up. Reverend Celeste Frazier, we have Todd Fink, and then we have one of our favorite practitioners who's a prayer maven, Angela Montano. So stay tuned for the rest of the series. God bless.